Good morning. I'm not too sure what I'm going to talk about again today, but the one thing you might notice is that I got a haircut. It's been a little overdue. Got snowed in and missed my appointment. And maybe think about it, like just take a moment to notice inside of yourself if you have a different response to me today than you have had when my hair was crazy. And just sort of notice that. For some reason, I'm reminded of the book by Swami Gopalananda, Can You Listen to a Woman? And it's the story of how he comes to Swami Radha's ashram, Yashodhara ashram in BC, Canada, and how he kind of faced his defense mechanisms and his ways of sliding away from the deeper spiritual awarenesses, or the deeper self-awarenesses, in fact, which are the same thing. And that was something that Swami Radha said to him, several times. Can you listen to a woman? And he always thought, of course I can. I prefer to listen to women. But because she kept asking him, and she was a very wise woman, she was working from levels of deeper perception. It wasn't just, ego talk from her whenever she said something. There was something speaking through her. So he finally asked himself, what is it that's making Swami Radha have to ask me this question over and over again? Am I not as willing to listen as I thought? And I guess he talks about those little ways that the ego has to trick us into thinking that it's doing the work and it's listening and all of that, while at the same time, on another level, it's defending itself. And I've wondered, when I started these videos, whether that might be an issue. I think if you're following them this far, I'm really impressed, because we are so trained in this culture in the first place to go by looks, and especially for women. As I said when I started, men could get away with waking up in the morning and turning on the video and doing it. But women are expected to put on their face, do the makeup, do the hair, do the clothes, look a certain way before anyone will take them seriously or pay attention. And if they don't do that, it's really hard to overcome that voice that's kind of judging them all the time and going, oh, they would just, why didn't she, or she would look so much nicer, or whatever that voice may be saying. And to be distracted by that and not actually get the message. And if you've been watching this far, congratulations, you've been able to overcome that, because you wouldn't keep doing this if you weren't getting the message. So, and at the same time, maybe there's a little bit more awareness we can bring. Is there still some level of you that responded differently to me with this tidier, trimmer haircut? Or maybe in a negative way, maybe you liked it better soft and more feminine, and less like kind of clean cut and short. Just to notice. I mean, there's no judgment around that. There's just awareness that I'm hoping to bring. Because that can be one of the ways we toss out goddess's little gems that she's giving us, right? Like it can be one of the ways the ego likes to look for flaws and then toss out the baby with the bathwater. So, because it doesn't want to hear these messages, really, it doesn't want to really integrate all of this knowing and take it in to the level where it loses control. It wants to take it in just enough to let you feel like good about yourself for doing the work, but not enough to actually change yourself to the level that it's no longer in control. So think about how your ego has been responding to me, or how that little voice inside of you has been responding to me visually, or perhaps my mannerisms, or my backdrop, who knows, right? My clothes. And look for those little hints that the ego is trying to distract you or discount what I'm saying because it makes it uncomfortable. You may not notice on the surface that that's why it's doing that, but when the ego starts doing that, like, why is it doing that? There's a reason, isn't there? There's got to be a reason. And what reason does the ego really have to find fault with another? To make ourselves feel better, and to put ourselves in a position intellectually or emotionally where we don't feel a need to listen to the other person. So that may not be happening for you, but it may be happening a little bit on some level. And can you look that deeply at yourself, that frankly, and to see what's honestly going on beyond the surface levels of, oh no, I'm fine with this, and whatever we might have on the surface? Those are all great, and it's great that they're there. And at the same time, are you willing to drill down to the sticking points of the ego where it's not willing to release, and it's not willing to listen completely, and it wants to find fault and problem and distract you from the liberation that comes when you realize these things about yourself? When we realize that we are blocking in a certain way, we are suddenly free to behave in a different way that we couldn't do that before, could we? When we were ignorant of it or in denial of it, we can't address it. So if you can take a moment to just realize that some part of you may be resistant still, and that part of you is going to come up as thoughts in your head, judgment type thoughts, for instance, or feelings in the body, or discomfort, or emotions like irritability or resentment or whatever. Those are all ways that the ego is trying to turn down the volume of what you can actually take in. It's trying to prevent you from seeing where it's still locked in. And this is the value of having a spiritual teacher, like a true spiritual teacher. And if you don't know how to tell the difference between a good one and a bad one, check out wiccaspirituality.com. I have tips there on how to tell the difference. There is such a thing as a guru, as a beneficial guru. I mean, that word has been mutilated now by so many false gurus, and also just, become part of the vernacular for someone who's good at something, or a master at something perhaps. But a true guru, in the original meaning, was someone who was 100% liberated themselves, so that they could see you 100% clearly. We can only see in others as far as we have gone in ourselves. So when we get to those parts where we've got blinders on and we can't see those spots in ourselves, like Swami Gopalananda had when Swami Radha kept saying, "Can you listen to a woman?" And he thought, yes, of course I can. And he wasn't aware of that deeper level that was actually in resistance and still in a protection defense mode. Sometimes it takes someone outside of ourselves to get past our blind spots and know what's really going on in a way that it's hard to see in ourselves. I mean, you've probably experienced this, haven't you, where you can see really clearly what's going on in someone else, but not be so sure what's going on in yourself. On a spiritual path, we get to a point where we've pretty much gone as far as we can on our own, because the defenses are blind. We are blind to them. By definition, we can't see them. So, in this case, you're being asked to be your own guru. And let's, can you think for a moment that, just take an assumption that maybe on some level there is some resistance or there is some reaction to my appearance, which may or may not be the same thing. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but just in context of this, that's what comes up for me. And, if you can assume, I'm sorry I said I try not to do that. If you can assume that there might be a blind spot or might be some kind of reaction or resistance to how I look or how I'm presenting myself, then you're free to examine and see whether or not that's actually so. And you're free to examine to what degree that is blocking your ability to take in the message and the energy and the opportunities for upliftment. And this is just an experiment. Play lightly with this. Imagine that it's a game, because the last thing I would like is for you to come in and develop resistance or judgment around yourself in reaction to this. No, this is just a way of getting a little bit more free, a little bit more self-awareness, and a greater ability to really absorb the gems that are coming through. And I'm not saying it's all, gold, but if you're listening, then I know that some things must be coming through to you that are valuable to you. So let's see if we can't deepen your ability to accept those in yourself and integrate the changes to a level where it's really meaningful, where it's not just an ego game of spirituality, but it's really truly a growth path, a spiritual development path, by changing ourselves, changing yourself. That's what liberation is about. And liberation is as great as the word sounds, right? It's freedom, it's excitement, it's wonderful feelings, it's smooth sailing. There's so much worthwhile benefit to liberation that even if you just want the benefits, it's worth doing it. All right, so I guess we've, holy cow, done a whole video, 14 and a half minutes, and then some. So you've already got your practice for today. I would love to hear how it goes. And that's what the comment section is for below. Insights, sharing your process, whatever you like. Or the gems, that would also be, I think, really great if you could share what you particularly got out of each of these recordings. That's a wonderful thing to share with others, and also helps other people understand whether or not it's might be worthwhile for them to watch. So, all right, I guess we're set, and I will go off to my dentist today, and that's going pretty well, as you might be able to tell. I'm in a much calmer space than I was yesterday. Well, I was pretty calm, but I've gotten even clearer with a lot of tapping and stuff. So, you have your task, I have mine, and we'll meet back here tomorrow. Have a great day. Blessed be.